everyone. After yesterday's crazy live rocket launch in Fortnite Battle Royale, we are left with more questions than answers, and having had about 24 hours since that rocket launch, I've gone ahead and spent many hours writing down exactly what has happened, what is going on, and what we are leading into with the finish of Season 4 and obviously the start of Season 5 in less than 2 weeks, because there are so many theories going around, a lot of them just straight up fake that don't make any sense, but I'm here to piece together and give you guys all of the information I have on the crazy happenings of yesterday's rocket launch and what it means moving forwards. Just in case by some weird freak accident you haven't seen this Fortnite rocket launch, down below in the description is my Fortnite playlist, and the latest video in there will be the rocket launch from yesterday. It was absolutely crazy. For all of you guys that joined in and watched it live, it was an unreal experience, and Fortnite are just changing the game. They're doing crazy things we never thought possible, and today we're going to be breaking down everything that's gone on. As always, if you guys are new around here, make sure you subscribe, turn notifications on to see my videos every single day, and make sure you do not miss out on anything, especially as we're leading up to such an important time with Season 5 just around the corner. And if you're excited to find out more about what happened yesterday, give it a big fat thumbs up as we dive into a very juicy video. So first off, before we even take a look at the replay of the rocket launch and break it all down, the very first thing I want to take a look at is a lot of supposed leaked information of posts going around that are from people that are just pretending basically to have real information. I'm not going to be referencing any of these because, as I said, there's no way of knowing whether or not they are real or true, and they're most likely false. The only real piece of information that was 100% accurate was the pre-season 4 leak that told us exactly what was going to happen, that it was going to be superheroes, the Dusty Divot was going to be hit, and as a result of that leak, the person that actually leaked it is now being sued by Epic Games, and they are in a lot of trouble, and they're definitely not going to be leaking anything anytime soon, so we're not going to be referencing just any random internet post. There's only one thing I'm going to highlight from the post from the actual person that did leak real information, and in there, one of his bullet points is that Moisty Mire will be gone by the end of Season 4, and we'll be bringing that up a little bit later in the video, because out of everything that he's leaked, everything's been bang on, everything has happened apart from this one point. So guys, with the replay file now booted up, let's break this all down and start it off initially before anything even happens with the rocket itself. This rocket here is not meant to be a functioning rocket. I've covered this in a video before about the whole of Fortnite Season 4 being based around superheroes, as we know, with the Omega skin, with the Carbide skin, but it was confirmed through the weekly unlock loading images once you completed all of the weekly challenges, but that was just a film set. There was nothing real behind it. The good versus evil, the posters you saw all around the map, it was all just movie promos. It was all fake. All the cameras were set up to record this film, and the bases that we had here, the bad base obviously with the evil layer where the rocket is taking off from, and then obviously the Carbide, the good guys base on the other side of the map, all of that was created, all of it was a part of a film set, an epic film set, you got to admit, but none of it was meant to be functioning, none of it had any sort of real effect or any sort of potential harm to the world of Fortnite. However, as we know, the meteors came in at the beginning of Season 4, and the giant meteor, the biggest meteor that caused the most destruction to the map, was obviously based in Dusty Divot. Inside that meteor, it turned out that the Visitor skin was inside that, and this is where everything changes. The Visitor skin himself is nothing to do with the movie. He is not fake. He is genuinely from out of this world. He is, as his name is described, a visitor that isn't meant to be here, and as soon as he lands, as soon as he breaks out of a meteor, he has one goal, and that is to head back home and to go back to wherever he has come from. Ultimately, that leads on to him finding this rocket prop here, which isn't meant to work, as this is part of a film set, and he mods it, he retrofits it with his own fittings to make it a working rocket to allow him to actually go back home, because he's a visitor. He is not from here, goodness knows where he is from, but he wants to go back. Now, if we take a closer look at this rocket, we can actually see that the additional rocket launchers on here actually have the symbol of the visitor's skin. You can see them on the 4 extra thrusters turrets that are put on here. Obviously, you've got the lasers, which play a part in the rocket launch as well at the top. All of these retrofitted. Anything basically you see with like lights on it. You can see a few of the lights down here as well. All of that has been retrofitted. All of that has been put in by the visitor as his way, his very, very smart scientific way of escaping back home. And he is the sole reason, he is the sole person behind what we saw yesterday and exactly what went down. The final thing to say about this is obviously his power source. Apart from the traditional thrusters at the bottom, which you'd expect on a normal rocket, the power source that we'll see mainly throughout the sequence we're about to go through in the rocket actual launch itself from yesterday is the hop rocks. This has been mentioned many, many times before, allowing him to do the crazy things that we're about to see here. So the power source is hop rocks. He's retrofitted it. He's freaking smart. But what on earth happened and why is it jumping all over the map? All right, guys, so this is where you're gonna have to start using your ears. So we're gonna start playing this here and just watch the rocket go up in the sky. As we know, this takes off like a traditional rocket using the thrusters at the bottom, just like any other rocket launch would do. This is to get it off the ground, to get it high up in the air, and to get it out of the gravitational field, or to pull it basically off of the Earth, which has obviously got its own gravitational field. Now, I can't go any higher than this because of the limits with the actual height within theater mode. At this point here, it's worth knowing that when the thruster disconnects, this is normal practice within rocket launches. The thruster, I believe, disconnecting is because it's given all of the power, it's used up all of its fuel, its energy, and at this point the rocket itself is light enough and has got enough momentum to do whatever it needs to do without the thrusters. We know the thruster goes all the way down. Where is it? Just over here, into Anarchy. As far as I'm aware, it doesn't really matter that that's happened. It doesn't really matter that it's in Anarchy. That's just where it ends up landing. So the rocket keeps on going up at this point, using whatever propulsion is left on the top half of the rocket. But it gets to a point here where, I mean, obviously it looks like it's about to escape, do its thing. The visitor has successfully gotten out of its world. But that is not the case, because it gets to a point, if we look at it zoomed all the way in, we can see that it has turned off any propulsion that it's had. And it looks like it's almost failed. Like the rocket hasn't done its thing and it's not successfully escaped. But we need to listen out because this is where the really important stuff starts to happen. This is where we have to listen, guys. So I'm just not gonna say anything. Let the audio play. Those of you guys that are not aware, Season 5 will be kicking off on July the 12th. That is less than 2 weeks away. So the period and the phase that we are in within the Fortnite world at the moment is just like last season, with all the meteorites building up every single day. We are leading up to an epic finale with daily changes to the maps, things that will be constantly evolving, leading up to the next season, which is so close now. And that's what we're going to be taking a look at and seeing what all of these hints are pointing at and what's going to be happening for Season 5. So the audio that we've just heard there was actually leaked and actually broken down before it even happened. And I actually included it in a video a few days ago, but it makes so much more sense now that the rocket launch has actually happened. So worth noting, there's actually two voices in there, a female voice and a male voice. Whoever the female voice is could yet be an undiscovered character, because as far as we're aware, the visitor skin and the visitor character is the only person from this outside world dimension is trying to get back home, but says the following words when you can hear those audio lines. It says 0 point oscillator on, set coordinates, engaging quantum field accelerator. Very scientific words there, and someone that knows a lot more about physics than I do, although I loved physics in school, will be able to understand this a lot better than I would. So big thanks to Sundiata1 over on Reddit, who has broken this down in a far more normal form. 0 point energy is essentially the lowest energy that a quantum mechanical system may have, apparently, and an oscillator is a device for generating oscillating electrical currents or voltages for non-mechanical means. So almost like a power source, essentially. He breaks it down by saying that obviously it's a little bit confusing and won't make sense to normal people like myself and maybe a lot of you guys. But essentially, quantum mechanics is extremely difficult, but observed in quantum mechanics, is the fact that tiny particles can disappear from existence. It makes no sense if you guys have any understanding of physics, because within the world that we know and the sort of scientific structure we've put together, nothing can just vanish or disappear without there being some sort of energy conversion, or basically if something goes then an energy comes. Like basically there needs to be an equal side to anything that happens in the world, and with something just disappearing you're then left with a negative effect, so something has to happen to offset it. So in this example of quantum mechanics, if that particle just disappears and vanishes, it'll actually reappear elsewhere in a form of teleportation, which is essentially what we're seeing here, quite obviously, within the world of Fortnite, is literal teleportation of this rocket around the map in Fortnite. So now we know what they're referring to. Once they say set coordinates, they don't actually say the coordinates out loud, but you do hear this continued weird audio. Now, I broke this down a few days ago, and that audio actually maps out as an image to coding, which when converted gives us 4 coordinates, essentially the coordinates you can see on screen here. Big shout out again to the guys, 2 Epic Buddies on Twitter, for working this out. Extremely impressive. And everyone's initial thoughts, linking in with that very first leaked Reddit post which said Moisty would disappear by the end of Season 4, everyone's thoughts was that the rocket would just hit Moisty, it'd be gone, and that would be it. But that is not what happened, and if we continue to watch, this actually makes a lot of sense. Hope you guys are following this okay. I know it's a lot to take in at once, but at this point here, this is when I actually freak out, because the rocket comes down towards Tilted, using the lasers to actually target Tilted Towers. Now, I just want to say at this point here, yes, it's clearly targeting Tilted, but I don't believe the fact that it's targeting Tilted was done on purpose or means anything at all. If anything, Epic Games has put it in there to troll us, because we know how much everyone thinks that they want Tilted Towers to be destroyed. It didn't happen last season, and obviously with this run of events, it looked like it was going to happen, but it didn't. These lasers are simply setting up the teleportation device, as we can see at the bottom here of this formation, and it doesn't really matter where it's aiming at. Essentially, those targets started as it fell back towards Earth. The rocket was simply gaining gravitational momentum as it was pulled towards the Earth, building up as much speed as it could. It then formed this teleportation device using the lasers, and then obviously, as we know, as it came down, it goes into the portal that it creates and then disappears and physically teleports. It physically goes somewhere else. At this point here, it actually disappears for quite a little bit of time. And if anything, I think I assumed at the time that it was just gone, that was it, and probably something had happened to Tilted. But as we now know, that is not the case. So I'm just going to preempt what happened over here, because I know what happens, you know what happens, because the portal actually reappears, just as you can see over here, over Moisty Maya. Now at this point here, upon the rocket's re-entry, I'm going to try and basically line up as much vertically above it as possible. So if we stop here, obviously the rockets come out, but if we were to mark that point, the point in which it has come out on the map, this is where the coordinates make sense. It's not the point at which it's hitting or destroying Moisty. Why would the visitor create this rocket and then just smash it into the ground? Makes no sense. That coordinate point is actually dead on between all of the coordinates given out in audio form over Moisty. It literally lands in the middle of all 3 of those coordinate points. This is a purposeful point at which is re-entered the map. They wanted this to happen. It was not an accident. They wanted to come over Moisty. As we know though, that was not the only coordinate given, and actually the rocket itself goes around the map. It goes over several different parts. It actually goes near where we know to be the bunker in Wailing Woods. It doesn't actually do anything, doesn't interact in any way, just makes a loop around the map. Now this was confusing at first, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are thinking, well, why is it doing this? It's not going any faster, it's not building up any speed, it's not dropping anything. It is literally doing nothing apart from circle over the map at this point. Now, its point of re-entry, if you guys worked it out already, I'm sure you may have done, and you've seen it obviously. The point of re-entry here is very important for for a few reasons. First of all, it is obviously the final coordinate given during the audio cues. And again, isn't a point in which the rocket's going to hit. These are purposeful coordinates. They wanted the rocket to come out in Moisty, and they wanted the rocket to re-enter and re-teleport again at this point here in the coordinate set. And I'm going to show you this because I want to reference it a little bit later to debunk another theory. But take a look at the formation, the fracture, I think is really what we should be calling it, as the rocket has re-broken time and space and ultimately teleported. This is a break in time and space. It is him moving the rocket and teleporting it. But it's worth noting, this fracture here is curved. You notice how it's not flat? It is curved like that as the rocket has come in. It has created a curved fracture, allowing him to jump in time and space and allowing the rocket to literally teleport. Now at this point here, again, another re-entry, another break in time and space. Where is he gonna come out? What is gonna happen? Well, this is actually leading up to the final part of the rocket sequence. I think at some point in this replay file, I'm one of those guys you can see on screen there, because the rocket does re-enter and come out just over Loot Lake and almost absolutely destroys me. There you go, you can see it coming out here. And this is a rocket returning back to the island, to Fortnite Battle Royale, making its final trip, its final voyage, its final break in time and space. And as it goes off, builds momentum using those hop rocks, and boom, it re-enters its teleportation fracture, and the fracture stays. And that is the end of that sequence that we saw yesterday. So why did the rocket come back over Moisty and then leave in a completely different position? I sat here and I was like, it makes no sense. There's no speed reason to do it. There's no clear, obvious reason. And then I was thinking, this visitor's come from outer space. He has used some crazy hop rock technology to make this rocket to hopefully take him back home. This is technically a prototype rocket. There's no way he'd know this rocket would work. So I believe that the coordinates and the point of re-entry over Moisty was a test run. He needed to know that what he created could work. So his initial coordinate was simply to say, okay, my rocket can break time and space, can enter a portal, re-enter exactly where I want it to, and then go back into another portal exactly where I want it to. As we know, it worked, it was perfect. As soon as that test was successful, he put a tick by it. That is when he comes back, and that is when he makes his final exit back home through this fracture and goes back to wherever the dude has come from in his freaking meteorite that he was trapped in. It was a test, it worked, and hey, I'm assuming it worked because he's gone, the fracture's there, and it's left a massive hole in the sky, and as a result, he's gone back. Congratulations. Good job, visitor. I don't know how you've done it. You're a crazy, crazy scientist, but you managed to create a teleporting rocket. But that isn't the end. We're still here, stuck on the island, and we still have this massive fracture in the sky. Now, a lot of people, and probably the favorite theory that I'm seeing a lot of at the moment, is the fact that this is actually a curved fracture in the sky. I'm trying to get a really good angle to show you guys this, but it is definitely curved. You can see by the way it's broken, and with it being really high above the sky, in fact the battle bus goes just underneath it every time you start a map now, it looks like, and don't get me wrong, like I thought it was a very accurate guess as well, it looks like there was almost like a dome above the map. A lot of people are calling it the storm shield, because obviously there were storm shields in Save the World, which is the PvE portion of the game, and he's broken that shield and managed to escape the map. But this theory makes no sense for several reasons. A, how did the meteorites get in without cracking anything at all? Because they clearly came from space and landed on the map. There was no breaking of dome, there was no breaking of the storm shield, they came straight in. And then B, literally 30 seconds before this happened, the rocket went way higher than this. So I am not buying, and I'm completely debunking the fact that there is like a storm structure shield keeping us in the map there. This is why I showed you the other exit being curved. It simply creates a curve like this as a fracture as the rocket enters, and it does that every single time. The curvature has nothing to do with being like a wall or a base above the map, basically, just to throw that out there. But what we are left with is, as we've seen, because the rocket literally teleported through it, is a physical tear in time in space, a literal teleportation device that I assume if we could get up to it, which we can't, you can't build up to it, you can't get up to it in theater mode, and you can't get up there in any way in a normal map. If we managed to touch that, I'm pretty sure we'd go wherever the visitor went. So we have a way to link ourselves with what is most likely somewhere back in time. I know that the visitor is very futuristic, but you've got to think, if he was stuck in a meteor and that meteor landed at the beginning of season 4, say he's been stuck in that meteor for a while, he's come from a far, far away place, which has obviously taken a long time to get here, so he comes from somewhere back in time, we can only assume. Which links in with many, many theories that season 5 is actually going to be a historical season, and that this rupture in time and space is actually a gateway, a pathway, a link between everything in history, everything back in time, which should actually break the time-space barrier between everything we know, allowing them a portal to actually come into our world and allowing Epic Games to just do whatever they would like in time, in history, for season 5. Literally, the world is their oyster with this crack in the sky. Now, there's a real big thing that I want to show you guys, and this is within the replay file where obviously I watched the Fortnite rocket go and do its thing. And we're going to head over and take a look at a place where in this replay file, there is nothing, but today there is something. So guys, I've taken us to Lonely Lodge. In fact, taken us to the Lonely Lodge Manor, you could call it. See, there's nothing unusual here. It looks exactly as it has been in the past. It looks very, very normal. Well, now I'm going to roll a clip of how it looks today. This is me jumping to Lonely Lodge, taking a few people down, and as some of you guys may have seen it yourself, there is now a weird, like, vortex, almost looks like a portal, that has started to form outside Lonely Lodge. And this is where I need to give my theories. You guys can give your theories as to what is going to happen. So I believe that with the visitor returning home, obviously with the time-space break fracture in the sky, there is now a huge, massive, like, effect over the whole of the Fortnite world, where we're going to start to see cracks, portals, and gradually leading up to season 5, I reckon more parts of the maps will start to have these weird vortexes, these weird, like, portal-like areas continue to appear around the map. Now, I've tried jumping into it, I've tried shooting through it, nothing actually happens, it doesn't actually do anything, but what it does mean is that potentially any part of the map with these vortexes, with these like wormholes appearing, could lead to a place in past or even future to appear and replace those points of interest with whatever Epic Games feel like they want to. As I said, it is literally an open door to anything in history, past or present. Basically anything that links in with where the visitor has gone to can now come back, reversing that process into this world, and we could see massive changes to the map. One theory is that every point in which there was a teleportation of the rocket indicates where that point of interest will change and will turn into somewhere new. And heavily suggest a historical theme, which can branch over potentially many of different time periods if that time fracture actually is broken and doesn't link to just one place, and is ultimately how I believe, and through all the research I've done, I believe is the accurate, real answer as to what we have just seen yesterday. But obviously over the next few weeks we'll see how it develops, see what happens. Stay tuned here, I could be covering all of it obviously on my channel. We'll see just how accurate I am and exactly what season 5 turns out to be. So guys, if you like my theory, if you like my explanation, do leave all your thoughts and give this video a big fat thumbs up so more people can see it and more people can share exactly what has happened. Let me know if you've got any other additional theories down below in the comment section. As I said, I tried to base all of this off of facts rather than just misleading, potentially very fake pieces of information online, and hopefully I think I've come up with a very, very accurate answer as to what is going on, and I cannot wait to see the official reveal and the official teasers over the next few weeks for season 5. If you want to check out more Fortnite videos right now, you can check out my playlist down below in the description. All my videos are in there. Thank you so much for watching. You guys are absolutely amazing, and I'll see you guys tomorrow as always for another Fortnite video. Goodbye.